Here's the thing. I really enjoyed this movie. I've seen the second movie of this, and I want to get my enjoying the Rambo series. It's like I want to get my fill of it, okay? Because I don't think it's going to get any better.
Oh, I'm sad about that.
Abby, in particular, I'm interested in your takes of how they fumbled this.
But now, in the sort of like in the fifth part of the movie, the politics drops like a lead weight. We've been hinting at it before with the sort of like, these are the cops who hate like Americans.
You know, wearing that flag on that jacket, looking the way you do, you're asking for trouble around here, friend.
But like, we really get to it because he shoots Teasel, wounds him, and his, Uncle Sam sort of like exponent, Colonel Troutman shows up. And
Wait, is his name actually Sam?
It's actually Sam, yeah.
Shit.
It's
he shows up and he goes, "Hey, while you were not paying attention, every cop in the world just rolled up outside and they have you surrounded.
It's like the end of Red Dead Redemption out there."
Yeah. Can you as a man now talk about your emotions even one time?
Can we please, for the love of God, check in with our blokes?
Guys will literally shoot up the town of Hope, Washington, rather than go to therapy.
Yes. Yeah, and so Rambo does go to therapy, and what Rambo says is...
And I did what I had to do to win, but somebody wouldn't let us win. And I come back to the world, and I see all those maggots at the airport, protesting me, spitting, calling me baby killer and all kinds of vile crap.
Now, we got some fucking politics. So, first of all, we got to start with, I did what I had to do to win the Vietnam War.
Yeah.
Which is,
again,
the war crimes.
Further alluding to the war crimes that Troutman alluded to earlier with Rambo, and I got confused with Vietnam, to be sure.
Yep. Absolutely no contradiction between that and taking it really personally to be called a baby killer. But second of all, somebody wouldn't let us win. Yeah. And I don't think he means the People's Army of Vietnam.
No, of course he doesn't.
I think... No, come on. It's a Dolstos legenda. It's exactly the same thing as like World War I, where it's like somebody was disloyal, and now, because they hated America, they humiliated our veterans.
He hates the hippies. He hates the fucking like the culture back home that forced the end of the war. He hates fucking Hanoi Jane. Like, but here's my fucking take. All of that's good because he would. Like, this character would. Like, I accept to you fully. I accept the politics of this movie are extremely bad, and they will only get worse over the course of this. But I think that this is the only movie in which there is like a quite reasonable anti-war reading. Just based on going, this is what Rambo would think.
Yeah,
this is what this character would.
I agree with Devon, because Rambo goes on this rant, and it starts with Colonel Sam saying, "Rambo, it's over."
It's over, Johnny. It's over.
And he says, "Nothing is over. You don't just turn it off." And he talks about how I can't sleep. I'm jumpy all the time. He says, out there I was elite, I won medals. Here I can't fucking hold down a job at a car wash. Then he goes into the political bit, which is not all of it. It's just the middle section. And the third section of this rant, which is fucking beautifully acted.
So well done.
I disagree that it's beautifully acted. It made me laugh my fucking ass off because the emotional core of this is the Stallone diction lets him down, and he talks about how his friend got blown up and the fucking I have the drop.
God, man, I want to go home, Johnny. I want to drive my Chevy. I doing what? I can't find your fucking legs. I can't find your legs.
This is
brilliant.
It's nonsense. It's melodrama.
No, it's not. It's beautiful because he's not articulate in this moment. He's lost in time. He doesn't know where the fuck he is. It's realistic that he wouldn't be the most articulate guy in the world.
It's not inarticulate in a way that, like, of a guy undergoing emotional turmoil. It's inarticulate in the way of a bad actor.
It's not. It's inarticulate in the way of a man who is crying as he says this. And, like, it is kind of funny and it is kind of absurd that he's like, I want to go home and drive my Chevy. He's like, but I can't fucking find your legs. It is one of those, like, brutal, dark moments. Like that fucking line that Harrison Ford had in fucking Harrison Ford versus Everyone in Ireland, whatever the fuck that movie was called, where he's like...
Patriot Games.
Patriot Games, where they were like, they could only save part of her spleen. And that was a line that you laughed at. And I was just like, fuck me, that is powerful. Because it is the kind of, like, absurd, realistic, unusual sentence that you would say when you're in a very unusual and very bleak scenario. No, I'm sorry, this scene is fucking beautiful, especially in the context of the fact that throughout the rest of the film, Rambo is almost completely taciturn, and here the floodgates just open. It was gorgeous.
Name for me a different film. Like, it's incredible to see a movie end where, like, the emotional core of it, like, the fucking denouement for this character is that he breaks down. And that's the end of the movie? That's never going to fucking happen again. I'll tell you that for fucking free. Not in this goddamn series of movies.
I think you're both giving it way too much credit, both politically and emotionally.
Yes, I am.
I think you are like invited very much to sympathize with the idea that, first of all, that, you know, the woke pussies at home made it so you, like, actually did lose the Vietnam War. And yes, Rambo is damaged, but it's kind of like both sidesing it, where it's like, oh, they didn't care, but also, like, the hippies didn't either, right? Which is nihilistic and fascistic. And the second thing is, he says, when I got home, they protested me, they spat at me, and they called me a baby killer. And there is a book called The Spitting Image, Myth, Memory, and the Legacy of Vietnam by Jerry Lemke, which I highly recommend. And part of the thing is, this has been a very successful right-wing narrative that anti-war protesters were, in general, disrespectful to veterans, and in the specific spat on them. And they can find not one credible instance of this ever happening. It is purely a myth. As far as anyone knows, it never happened. And it's sort of like, it's a tool to divide American public opinion and totally obliterate the legacy of any kind of anti-war activism by veterans, of which there was a lot. Fucking John Kerry testified in front of Congress about, like, being asked to die for a mistake, and he just does not figure in this analysis at all. Neither does anyone else. Neither does anyone, like, throwing medals over the White House fence in disgust, because you're only allowed to sympathize on the level of the guy got his friend's legs blown off and that's sad, instead of any of them ever felt anything about it that made them want to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like a consciously nihilistic thing that is an attempt to, like, defang and like disarm any kind of American anti-war and specifically anti-Vietnam War politics. It's a reprehensible movie, and it sucks. It's like, it's not well acted. I truly don't think it is.
Politically, I will grant you, yeah, I think you're right. I think the politics, it's also very noticeable that none of this is applied to the Vietnamese people. As in, like, well, do you think the war might have sucked for them too, bro? Like, yeah. No, fully, I will grant you that the politics of this is, like, real bad. And, like, a myth, as you say, a right-wing myth. But I'm sorry, I will not concede. I think this performance is fucking beautiful. I mean, just like as an actor, like, game recognized game. I think it's if you watch it out of context and just watch it on YouTube, listeners, you won't get the full effect of it. I think you've got to watch the whole movie where he's, like, very silent, he's very taciturn, he's very stoic, and then this final scene where he breaks. I think that is a decision by Stallone and the director as well that is just absolutely fucking 5 stars.
Maybe this is just something that I have, like, a low tolerance for. I don't know. But, like, Troutman sort of, like, looks at him and looks down the barrel of the camera like, damn, society.
He does.
He hugs him. Yeah. He hugs him and Rambo cries. And it's like, fuck me, man.
And he, like, walks him out past the cops and you see Rambo looking, like, tremendously damaged and stuff. And it's like,
that's the end of the fucking movie.
Damn. War bad, but, like, mostly when you don't support it.
Yeah.
Question mark.
No winners in war, but not in a political way.
Yeah, and that's again an incredibly fascist sentiment to be like, oh, you mean the war, this thing that, like, totally ablates any humanity of the people involved in it? Well, that's good, actually, if you really commit, you know?
I don't know, because Rambo, I'm not sure it's as simple as that, because Rambo did commit to the war.
No,
but it didn't do him any good.
But America didn't, and America was, like, sort of disloyal to him and to itself, and now it, like, sort of, like, hates itself, and it's a divided society.
Okay, yeah, but I want to draw your attention to the fact that that's not the core of Rambo's rant, that's only the middle section. That's the justifications he's giving for his anger, but then actually what we see underneath that anger is the grief at having lost his friend, and the trauma of that. I think that he's throwing that out to justify the way he is, to justify the way he's feeling, And then when that doesn't help, you finally just break down and confronts this terrible memory.
I don't know. I think it's something that the movie really expects you to sort of like believe and support. But I will say, you can't sort of like make this argument from either side about any of the following movies.
That's right.
And I do think it is a bit bittersweet. I will grant you this, seeing the end of this movie and knowing ahead of time where this character is going. But there is something else that I want to draw out about First Blood, which is in the course of adapting it, Stallone had them change a lot of the plot. And there's a quote from him about this. Because in Rambo, first of all, in the novel, he dies at the end, kills Teasel, kills many cops. And Stallone, I think, accidentally says more about the American psyche and the American idea of like the outlaw than he means to here, because he says, the original Rambo was so bloodthirsty, the story was so hard, so terrifying every step of the way. What I did with Rambo was try to keep 1 foot in the establishment and 1 foot in the outlaw or frontier image. I wanted him to be accepted by the mainstream, but also be a criminal. So he has some strong patriotic views, and he loves the system, he just doesn't like a lot of the people who live and work in it. And I think that's a very astute observation of Rambo as a character, but also pretty much anything. You can apply that to fucking American Sniper if you wanted to. And I love this idea that, like, we're making explicit that, like, no, he has to, like, sympathize with the establishment and be, like, within and against it because it's constantly filled with, like, internal traitors who are weakening it. That's very revealing to me. And I think we're going to, like, double and triple and, you know, quintuple down on that over the course of the next movies.
Again, I want to draw your attention to the fact that the people who are against Rambo in this film, principally the sheriff, certainly use political language and arguments sometimes. However, the core of their beef with him is an emotional one. Will is not against him. Like, Will, you know, the cops call him Soldier Boy and they make fun of him for this. Yes, true. But Will is against Rambo because of Will's own pride and his own stubbornness. So I don't know. I think the characters in this film...
That beef starts because of wanting to preserve the sort of like nice middle class character of a rural town.
You wouldn't like it here. This is a quiet little town. In fact, you might say it's boring. But that's the way we like it. And I get paid to keep it that way.
I've been quite silent.
Much to consider.
Basically, what I think is, like, Abby is correct about the acting. I don't know anything about acting, and I believe that you probably do.
I know I don't, but I'm entitled to my sort of like ignorance here, I feel.
I agree with you completely about like the politics of this movie. I think you are fully right. This movie believes that like the Vietnam vets were failed by the American public. This movie believes everything that they're putting in the mouth of John Rambo. Like, granted, 100%. However, I do still think that taken in isolation, you can read quite heavy anti-war sentiments into this if you would like to, and I would.